So then we get to a section where he talks about things that ocarinas aren't good at. So, and I guess just a bit of a disclaimer, I don't always agree with everything, or I might just have a slightly different opinion to what's sort of indicated here. And you may have your own opinions, and that's what makes things great, right? Everyone is allowed to have their opinion, and there's, I guess there's a sort of diversity of opinions out there. So, like all instruments, there are a number of things that ocarinas are naturally poor at. And the first thing is listed here is accompaniment. So, the same characteristics that make the instrument effective at lead melody make it function poorly as an accompanying instrument. They are too prominent and steal focus from the lead. So I don't agree with that 100%. I do agree that when you pick up an ocarina for the first time, accompaniment might not be on your mind. When you think of accompaniment, you might think of instruments like piano, guitar, ukulele, bass guitar, and I guess to demonstrate. So guitar is an instrument that's typically sort of associated with accompaniment. And typically what you do as a beginner is you learn the chord shapes, and you can play chords either in arpeggio or you can strum the chords. But the thing is, the more you learn about the guitar, you find out that it's actually very much a solo instrument as well, and you can sort of play melodies. And I think the same is with ocarina, but perhaps in inverse. An ocarina may sort of immediately strike you as a melodic lead solo instrument, but you can actually utilize it as an accompaniment instrument in certain ways, and let me demonstrate what that might look like. So I guess one way that ocarinas can be accompaniment instrument is demonstrated in sort of ensemble playing. So if you look at, I didn't prepare a video before, but let's see if I just use. Yep, so when you look at that sort of ensemble playing, what you find out is that typically the higher tuned ocarinas, your sopranos and your altos on the left there, are playing the melodic lines, but your larger sort of bass, and I think they've got a contrabass ocarina there as well, are playing accompaniment role. So one of the simple ways you can use an ocarina, especially a bass ocarina, as accompaniment is you play the root chord as a note, like you would use a bass guitar. So for example, if in your music sheets there's C chord, G chord, you play notes like C, or you can hold the notes as a sort of like a drone, while ocarina sort of your higher pitch ocarina is playing on top of it. That's or any other instrument that's sort of using ocarina as an accompaniment. arpeggio of the chord. So you break. So each chord has a bunch of notes that make it that chord, and you can sort of arpeggiate those chords using your ocarina. Another way you can sort of accompany or use your ocarinas as an accompaniment is sort of playing a sort of supportive ornamentation role using a combination of those chord patterns and little sort of improvised sort of ad libs that you can play sort of alongside other musicians. So, for example, this is something I've recently been experimenting and practicing with the band that I play with. So have a listen to my attempt to sort of use ocarina as a accompaniment instrument. I would also like to show you, I guess, an example of that kind of accompaniment in a professional setting. So, for example, if you go to this Bossa Novo performance by Lisa Ono and her band, actually, I think I've got the exact timing saved. Listen carefully for how the flute plays an accompaniment role in this arrangement. Yeah, so I don't know if you could hear that, but the flute sort of plays in the background. So the singer's obviously sort of the lead melody, and the flute sort of plays some chord patterns as well as some ornamentation in the background. And I guess in summary, yes, you can use ocarina as an accompaniment instrument. Saying that it's naturally poor at accompaniment is probably not my choice of words. Obviously it excels at being a solo instrument, but it can also play an accompaniment role in a sort of eclectic band setting, depending on how you use it. So music that demands precise control of volume dynamics. Yeah, I guess there's a bit of a point there in that a lot of sort of your classical instruments, such as the classical guitar. I actually went and saw a classical guitar concert yesterday, and what I've noticed is that the player can play really sort of gently and quietly, as well as also quite loudly as well, depending on the requirements of that song. And it sort of intrigued me how that kind of fine dynamic control is quite difficult on an ocarina. Music requiring a very large range, yes, so your typical single chamber ocarina only plays about 1.5 octaves, But then he does go on to mention that you can overcome that using multi-chamber ocarinas, so such as this triple ocarina, which has 3 octaves of range, which is, I guess, enough for most kinds of music, as well as using multiple ocarinas in an ensemble, all tuned in different pitches to cover each other's range. So he gives a bit of a, I guess, a conclusion here. People often consider instruments as having built-in capabilities. Recorder is often dismissed as a child's instrument, whereas violin and piano are considered real instruments to which skilled musicians aspire. Yeah, I guess that's sort of the image, but then even, I guess, recorder can be played at a very, professional level. And by the same token, ocarina is not just a Legend of Zelda toy instrument that you for playing Zelda songs on. As much as I love Zelda, it does go beyond Zelda, and you can play a much wider repertoire, like some of the examples I've shown you. So I guess his concluding paragraph here is that visually simple instruments often hide their potential underneath their appearances, and the ocarina is no exception. If you explore its potential, you'll find that the ocarina is more capable than you think. And I completely agree with Robert's statement here. And it becomes more about you as the player than, I guess, the instrument. Although, you also, by the same token, you also need a good instrument in order to be able to play. And I think that's what we'll sort of cover in the next video, which will cover the types of ocarinas and what type of ocarina you should learn on, because there's no point in having a lot of talent and capability and willingness to learn if you have an instrument that does not allow you to grow, or the instrument itself is just grossly flawed, that it's not a proper instrument. And there are lots of bad quality ocarinas out there, probably more bad ocarinas out there than the good ones. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It did end up being a bit of a bit more lengthy than I anticipated, but hopefully the content was meaningful and entertaining enough to keep you occupied. So until next time, enjoy practicing and playing your ocarinas. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, or better yet, join the Ocarina Network group on Facebook and ask your questions there for all your ocarina needs. And I do encourage you to check out the resources on pureocarinas.com in your own time to cover these sort of techniques